Hey everyone, my name is Haley and this is Truth and Fertility. So today I wanted to give you guys 3 things that your doctor probably isn't telling you about what the birth control pill or really any other hormonal contraception is doing to your body, how it actually works. And this goes for, like I said, the pill, but it also goes for Nexplanon or the Depo-Provera shot, even like hormonal IUDs. They're all doing kind of the same thing. And so there are 3 main things that it does to your body, whether you're taking these, whether you're taking the pill or, using these as a contraceptive or for any other medical reason. And so again, 3 things that I wanted to go through today of what they're actually doing to your body and how they actually work. And I find that a lot of doctors don't necessarily go into this much depth and detail as of what I'm going to hopefully give to you today. So that's my goal. So the first thing that and again, I'll say the pill or birth control, but really this is any hormonal contraceptive. So the first thing that it does is that it suppresses ovulation, which we can kind of think of like as a duh, because for a lot of women that are on contraception, it's because they're not wanting to get pregnant. So ovulation, which is when the egg leaves the ovary, that will happen usually once every cycle, hopefully once every cycle, which is about once a month. But that I hate using the 28 days or once a month or whatever, because everybody's cycle is so different. But again, in a healthy working reproductive system for a female, she should be ovulating once every cycle. And so what the pill or again, any hormonal contraception is doing is it's suppressing ovulation. And so all of the hormones that are naturally supposed to be working in your body, kind of telling your brain to your ovaries what to do throughout a given cycle, those are being shut down. They're saying, turn those off so that you're not ovulating anymore. So that would be the first thing, because if you're not ovulating, you're not getting pregnant, because if there's no egg, there's no baby. So that would be the first way, kind of the more duh thing. Now, the second thing that the pill or any other hormonal birth control, the second way that it works is that it dries up cervical mucus. Cervical mucus is something I'm going to be talking about a whole lot on this channel because of how important it is to your fertility. So when I talk about cervical mucus, I'm talking about like discharge that most women, I would think, see. And this is actually very healthy and vital to a woman's fertility. So oftentimes we're told, to make a baby, it just takes an egg and a sperm, but it actually also takes cervical mucus. So if a woman is not producing cervical mucus, she is most likely not going to be getting pregnant anytime soon. So the second thing that hormonal contraception does is that it dries up all the cervical mucus. So in a normal, again, a healthy woman's reproductive system, she should be seeing a lot of cervical mucus around the time that she's ovulating. Cervical mucus, I could do a whole other video on this too, but cervical mucus helps a woman get pregnant in that sperm love cervical mucus. So they can live within cervical mucus for even up to 5 days, which is insane. So if you think about it, a woman could have intercourse on a Monday and then not actually conceive until that Thursday or Friday, just because that cervical mucus within her body can keep the sperm alive until she ovulates either that Thursday or Friday. So just in a hypothetical example. But cervical mucus is so important for a woman's fertility. And so that's the second thing that hormonal contraception does, is that it dries it all up. So it basically creates like a mucus plug within the cervix. And so a woman mostly, for the most part, is not going to be seeing any very small amounts or no cervical mucus at all when she's on any type of hormonal contraception. Now, the third thing that hormonal contraception does, and this is the one that's really the most serious that I really want to hone in on, is that no form of contraception is going to be 100% accurate in suppressing ovulation, right? And even drying up cervical mucus. So what happens is there can be something called a breakthrough ovulation. What this means is that if a woman has a breakthrough ovulation, that means that she does ovulate while she is taking the pill or on, taking the shot or whatever she's on. So she does ovulate, which will happen. No method of contraception, hormonal contraception, any contraception is 100% effective in suppressing ovulation or even just avoiding a pregnancy, right? So what can happen is if a woman does have breakthrough ovulation, she will ovulate while she is on the pill, or again, any hormonal contraceptive, she will ovulate. So breakthrough ovulation occurs. If she's having intercourse, that means pregnancy can occur. Okay. So if she's having intercourse and she ovulates, that means the egg is leaving the ovary. And if she's having intercourse, that means sperm is being introduced. And again, a sperm and an egg can make a baby. Now, again, that cervical mucus is very important too. And so during that breakthrough ovulation, a lot of times her body is actually producing cervical mucus when it wouldn't normally while she's on the birth control pill. But again, it is not 100% effective in avoiding pregnancy. So a pregnancy can still occur. So here is the third way that a hormonal contraceptive works. So if a woman does get pregnant, meaning the egg and the sperm meet, they come together, conception occurs, there's a brand new human life. At that moment of conception, a new human life has its very own DNA, its eye color, its hair color, its sex, everything is already determined at that moment of conception. So conception occurs. The third thing that hormonal contraception will do is that it dries up the uterine lining. What does that mean? So the uterus is about the size of a fist, and that is the main, it's a very important part of the woman's reproductive system. And so the ovaries are connected to the fallopian tubes, which are connected to the uterus. And so the uterus, if a woman gets pregnant, is where the newly formed life will be housed for the next 40 weeks until she has her baby, right? The uterus is very stretchy. It can accommodate a growing baby. And so every single cycle, there is a uterine lining called the endometrium, fancy word. And it's basically just a bunch of blood cells that are forming every single cycle. If a woman is not pregnant, that uterine lining will shed, and that's her period. But if a woman is pregnant, that uterine lining is there because that is where the baby implants. So this newly formed life in a normal, healthy, working reproductive system, that newly formed life will implant in that uterine lining. What hormonal contraception does is that it dries up the uterine lining. So if a woman does get pregnant, if breakthrough ovulation occurs and the sperm meets the egg, there's a brand new human life that is created and conceived. That new human life will not be able to implant in the uterus, in the uterine lining, because it's dried up. And so what happens is that newly formed life is not able to implant, and it will not be able to continue its life. And so the woman may not even know that she is pregnant, and she probably won't even know she's pregnant. And that newly formed life will, again, not be able to continue on living. And so it will die, and it will be shed along with that woman's next period. This is why the hormonal birth control pill or any other hormonal birth control form of birth control is also called an abortifacient. That's the term that is used to describe this, because it can abort a newly formed life. This is what women don't know. And when I teach this to couples and to single women even, when I teach them this, it's like a light bulb moment that goes off because their doctor is not telling them this. No one is telling them that this is what is happening. And I have met women who have heard this and they immediately they change their life. They get the IUD removed. They stop taking the pill. They stop this because it's shutting down their whole reproductive system, and B, because of the fact that they could be conceiving new life. I don't know how many times, but they could have been conceiving new human life after new human life and never know it. This is what needs to be told to women when they are being put on these medications or getting the IUD or getting Nexplanon or getting Depo-Provera shots or whatever they are getting. They are not being told this, and they need to be told this. So those are the three things that the hormonal contraception will do to a woman's body in order to prevent pregnancy, or if pregnancy does occur, in order to not allow that pregnancy to continue. Now, as a bonus, I'm going to give you a fourth thing that the birth control pill, or again, any other hormonal contraceptive, will do. So the fourth thing is that within the fallopian tube, so again, most women will have 2 ovaries, and then connected to the ovaries are the fallopian tubes, and then connected to that is the uterus. And so 2 fallopian tubes on either side. The fallopian tubes have something inside of them called cilia. And these are little finger-like projections within the fallopian tube. And they are super, super important because what they do is they actually push along the egg. So when the egg is released from the ovary, the fallopian tube will kind of snatch that egg up and bring it through the fallopian tube. And it takes a few days for this to happen. And so these little cilia, or finger-like projections, will kind of sweep the egg along through the fallopian tube. Now, what it also does is that if a newly formed life is created, that newly conceived life, that sperm and that egg will usually meet in the outer third of the fallopian tube. So if we have like a uterus right here, or excuse me, not uterus, the ovary right here, we have the fallopian tube, and then the uterus down here, it's gonna conception usually happens in the outer third. And so it takes about 7 to 10 days for that newly conceived life to get from the outer third of the fallopian tube, so closer to the ovary, so you get from there to the uterus. And so the cilia are what does that. They push that newly conceived life along to get to the uterus. So the fourth thing that hormonal contraception will do is that it slows down the cilia from moving the egg or the newly formed life along. And so because of that, a woman can actually be more at risk for an ectopic pregnancy if she is on hormonal contraception. An ectopic pregnancy is when the newly formed life will implant in the fallopian tube rather than in the uterus. It's a fatal condition. Most times the fallopian tube, along with the newly formed life, have to be removed from the woman's body if that were to happen. And so the life cannot live within the fallopian tube. The mother could not live if that was not corrected. And so it's a very important thing for that to be seen and treated right away. So if a woman were to get pregnant on hormonal birth control and the cilia are not strong enough to push the newly conceived life through the fallopian tube, what can happen is that life actually ends up staying in the fallopian tube, which is what can cause that ectopic pregnancy, which again is fatal to the mother and to the baby if it's not addressed in time. So these are 4 things, 3 + 1 things that hormonal contraception is doing to women's bodies that they don't know. And so this is why I just have such a passion for teaching women what is actually happening with their bodies, with their fertility, with these medications that so many women are on, and they're not knowing what they actually do. I want to inform you and I want to empower you to make the decision that is best for you. I 100% believe that decision is getting off any sort of contraception, hormonal or not, and starting to track your natural fertility. That is the healthiest, best way for your body as a woman, for your marriage as a couple, wherever, even if you're a single woman. It's empowering to you to know what your natural, healthy body is doing, your reproductive system is doing, so that you can best take care of yourself and that you are not putting yourself in harm of these dangerous things that are so just kind of flippant in our society, in our culture right now. So again, I really hope that you learned something from this today. I'm going to continue making these videos. I'm coming in casual. I've got kids at home and I don't have time to get ready or all that stuff. So I'm just coming in as I am, and I'm teaching you what's on my head, what's on my mind, and what's on my heart. So I'm so glad that you stayed with me for today, and God bless you. And I will see you in our next video.